So we've just finished the build on this 76 series Landcruiser. This one's got quite a lot fitted to it. It's a pretty big build, so let's go ahead and jump into it. So we'll start at the front here. So we've just fitted the laser lamp Elite Sentinels with the position lights. So the customers just opted for the position lights to go with the actual white instead of the amber, just to blend in with the rest of the car. These spotlights are probably the best on the market, at least in my personal opinion. They're a 5,000 Kelvin light. Most lights out on the market are about 5,700 to 6,000. Where these are actually 5,000. So what that really means is the lower the number, the more yellow it becomes, because it's a scale to the sun. So if you can get it around that 5,000, I think it's the perfect amount, because it's not too yellow, it's not too white, so it's not going to blind you. If you have around 5,700 or 6,000, it's a pretty powerful light. They tend to reflect off road signs. And what I found in my personal experience using those type of lights, I've just had to turn them off, because you end up just getting blinded, where these lasers, they do have a little bit of reflection, but nothing crazy. So you can still turn them on and have those road signs come up, and you don't have to worry about turning them off. So they're a pretty good light. It's also got a warm winch. It's a 12 S, so it's got the synthetic rope on it. My personal opinion, I think Warren probably make the best quality winches you can get. They are probably a bit higher price-wise, but I think quality-wise, fit and finish, they're just by far the best winches you can go out and get on the market. So they did originally have another winch on there, and they've just swapped that out for the actual Warren. And then just the isolator switch for it is just located on the bull bar here. Normally we fit them under the bonnet, but this car's got quite a lot of gear on it, and there just wasn't really room under the bonnet, and it already had the holes pre-existing from the previous winch, so we've just gone ahead and installed that there. We always tend to just install an isolator opposed to an actual fuse. They obviously can pull quite a lot of power when you're under load, so fuses just have the tendency that it could pop, or you've got to have a massive fuse on it, and then it basically becomes redundant anyway. So we just opt for the actual isolator switch and unfuse it. So then our recommendation always is you just leave that isolator off whenever it's not in use, and then when you go to use it, just quickly flip it on. So you want it on a pretty easy accessible area, and then you're good to go. You can either plug directly into the actual Warren controller box with the hardwired one, or just use the wireless remote. So it's a pretty handy feature. Then also on the bull bar, so you've got the XRS. This has just got the long antenna whip, so it always comes with a short antenna in the actual kit, but the customer purchased the extra one, so the longer one just allows for further distance. Really the two difference between them is just their DBI rating. So I'm 100% sure, I believe this one is the 6.6 DBI. Basically what it means is really one has a bit longer distance, but it's got a narrower frame. So basically what the antennas will do, they'll shoot up a big bubble, and then depending on the DBI rating, it'll either be a super tall bubble, but narrow, so it doesn't get as long distance, but really good for dunes, which is what the short one is for. Or if you opt for the long one, it'll give you a narrower, so it won't shoot up as high, so it's not as good to go over those dunes, but you get a lot more distance. So if you're in a big convoy, this is definitely the option to go, but if you're looking for more off-road and sand dunes and that, you'll probably want to opt for the shorter one. Just under the bonnet, we've just got the two batteries. So you got your start battery, which is an overlander, and then just the battery behind it is also an overlander. So we just swapped out the factory one for that, and then we've just added the second one. So that's why we got these two up posts here, one to go to the actual winch itself, and then one to power the rest of the circuits for the second one there. So it's also got the get home safe, so it's just a switch in the dash, which we can show you later. So in the event that either your alternator dies or this start battery dies, you can just hit a switch in the dash, it'll just link them together. Just allows you to be able to get home if you ever have an event that the starter or the alternator actually dies. We've also got an upgraded alternator with our upgrade kit. So we just got the fuse here for the 250 amp Endura alternator. So that's just where the fuse lives for that. And then the alternator is just tucked down in there. So we had to upgrade to a bigger alternator just due to the fact of the extra charge we're putting on it. It's got a 50 amp Orion in the back, which we can show you. And once you add that, plus the spotties, you got UHF, he's got a few extra lights on top as well, adds quite a lot of load to the alternator and just can't handle it anymore. So just upgrade it to the 250 amp, and then that way he's not gonna have any dramas with burning out his alternator. I'd say that's about it for the front here. Let's jump around to the side and check that out. Yeah, so just on the driver's side here, so there was already quite a lot of components that were already fitted. Everything on the roof was already done, so it's just got a few camp lights here that's just set up to a little dial in the dash so you can dial the brightness up and down. It's got a Bush Company rooftop tent. He's got a 120 watt solar panel on the roof. It's got the Rhino rack roof shovel, and then he's also got the shower tent here that's just on a swing out bracket. So that was already pre-fitted, so we didn't really have to do much on the roof itself. What we've done on the side here, so we've chucked in the 240 volt 15 amp inlet. 70 series is pretty nice. They've got this nice little cutout here which actually suits it perfectly. The only thing you just need to keep in mind is you just don't want to crank it all the way down to the end because what you'll find is it'll just tend to actually crack the housing itself. So we use nylock washers, plus it's got the little rubber backing on it. So once that condenses down, just don't max it out, otherwise it will end up cracking. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. But it's a pretty nice spot because it just blends in there nicely, and then you can easily plug in to your shore power to be able to charge your battery via the multi-pluses inside. Just located next to that is the Mission 4x4 utility hatch. So just in there, we've just got water in, which is the middle one, water out's the outside one, and then we just got air out here as well. So we've got the both on both sides, but we'll show you the other side once we get around to it. But it's just pretty handy because he's got two water pickups and two water outlets. So if he ever has dirty water, then you'll do that from the other side, and then if you've got clean water, you'll do it through this side, and then that one goes through to the Duetto. So this is hot water on this side. So we just wanted to separate it in case you ever wanted to pick up external water that was a bit dirty. All the water pumps are located just on the side here. So this is really what does it all. So you've got the bigger pump that we've just opted for the shower, just get a bit more pressure. What we've found is if you go for the smaller pump that's just below it, once you've got a bit of a distance for the actual shower, it just starts to get a bit low pressure, which can be good because it means you don't really use too much water up, but a lot of people like to have a bit of pressure. So they've just opted to upgrade that one to the higher flow pump. So they just get a bit more pressure on it. And then the one below is just the external pickup pump. So that'll be for the inlet and outlet on the other side. It's got a water pump switch just here. So it's just a nice location in there, and then you've just got the actual adjustment for your temperature here. So the point of having the two mixes is just so that the Duetto, once it gets cold water starting to come into it, if you set that to the max, it just allows that cold water to not actually make it cold again. So then you'll use this little adjustment here to actually set the temperature that you want it to come out. So then that way when that cold water comes into the Duetto, and let's say it's set to 70 degrees, it's still going to stay around 60, 50 degrees when that cold water comes in, but because you're only asking for 38, 42 degrees, you're going to constantly get that the whole time. So that's why we always recommend you chuck this mixer in, so it just allows you to max out the Duetto so that you never end up getting cold water during your shower. Just located up on the actual door, we've just got the National Lunar Light. So we fitted these to many vehicles, so it's just got the amber and the white function, so it's dimmable as well. So you got a few different settings there, and then you just hold it and then change it to white, and the same thing, it's dimmable. And then if you just want to change it back, just hold it again, it goes back to amber. So they're pretty nice, sleek lights, and then they don't draw much power, so that's why we always recommend them. That's probably everything on this side. We'll jump to the passenger side and check that out. We just had to move the car into the shade. It's a bit of a hot day today, and we just had the camera overheating, so that's why we've just moved the car inside the workshop. But yeah, here on the passenger side, so we've just got the Mission 4x4 table here. So if we drop this down, just you'll be able to see the utility hatch here, and it's the same as the other side. So we've just got air out, you've got water out, and you've got water in. So this side is for the external pickup, so it's just that smaller pump that we saw on the other side. So then that way, yeah, if you ever run out of water because he's only running a couple 20 litre jerry cans, you can always just pick up external power, external water, sorry, and then run that through to the system. The only thing is it won't have hot water because it's not plumbed in to the hot water system. We just wanted to fully separate those two water systems, so that way if you ever did pick up dirty water, it doesn't end up going through your other water and contaminating it. So that's why they've just got the two full separate systems. Switch for this side is located just in here, same as the other one. So when you pop up the gull wing, you've just got the switch there for the water pump. That's this side's water pump, and then same on the other side. And then this is just the actual charge station here. So we've just got a twin 10 amp GPO there for any of your 240 volt outlets. It's just coming from the Multi Plus. And then we've got a couple 50 amp Andersons there just to charge drones or whatever else you'd like to charge. And then just a few sockets here. So we've got two twin USBs. That's a USB-A and a USB-C. Then you've got a normal SIG socket next to it, and then you've got an actual Merit socket next to that. So any sort of charging you want to do for drones, cameras, phones, whatever, we're covered with it with this charge station. So it's a pretty nice little setup there. And then same as the other side, we've just got the National Luna on the gull wing door. So exact same features as the other one. That's probably everything for around this side. Let's jump into the back and check that out. Yeah, so just located in the back here. So we've got the MSA twin drawers here. And then just on top of that is the fridge drop slide. And then this one's got the actual inbuilt table into it. So you can pull the actual table out and then use it. And then it just gets locked with the same locking as the actual fridge slide itself. On top of the fridge slide, we just got the National Luna 90 litre fridge. So it's a pretty big unit. It takes up quite a lot of space, hence why we had to go such a big fridge slide here. So this is the DS95 fridge slide. It's the one we had to use to get the 90 litre on there. So it takes up quite a lot of space, but because they're quite wide, these drawers with the wings, we're able to store a fair bit of space over here to be able to store stuff like all your bags and that. So it worked out pretty well. So located just here on the passenger side, so we've actually got a 410 amp hour battery. So that's a custom lithium battery. It's pretty compact size for 410 amp hours. So yeah, they're a pretty nice option to have. And it just fits in there tucked away underneath the gull wing there. So located just underneath that is just another 10 amp twin outlet connected to the Multi Plus again. So just another option if you ever want to do induction cooking and that at the back, you've got another outlet there. Located just above that is just the Touch 70. So it's the Victron Touch 70. That's where you can view everything that's happening with your system. So you can see your battery percentage, see how much you're draining, see how much AC load you bring in how much DC, or solar on that. So it's a pretty good little system there. And then the Touch 70 is just slightly bigger than the Touch 50. One thing you just want to keep in mind with the Touch 70s is you just don't really want to put big extensions on them. Once you get above, well, anywhere from pretty much 3 meters, they just tend to start playing up a little bit. So if you do want to go for a Touch 70, you need to have it located pretty close to the servo. Otherwise, you're just going to have to deal with it flickering and just, yeah, playing up a little bit. So that's one thing you keep in mind. If you're weighing up between do I go with the Touch 70 or the Touch 50, you just want to keep it pretty close if you go for the Touch 70. Located on the other side, so we've just got the Egan DC hub there. So that's just all your actual outlets. Everything's powered via that. So you just bring your start feed in, and then you bring your solar into that. DC loads go into that. So it just makes it super simple to be able to wire everything. And then it's got little LEDs there. So if you ever do blow a fuse, that LED will illuminate telling you, hey, there's an issue with that circuit. Makes it super simple for troubleshooting. And then located just next to that is just the MPPT, just for your solar. So he's got 150 in there. So that's just the first figure. The 100 just means how much voltage you can bring into the MPPT. So if you wanted to use, say, a 70 volt panel, that one can easily handle it. You can handle up to 100 volts. And then the second figure, 50, is just how much it can produce. So you just want to make sure that if you're going to put a lot of wattage solar panels onto that you didn't exceed 50 amps, because otherwise you're just not utilizing your solar correctly. So that's what those two figures mean. And just located next to that is just the Orion DC-DC charger. So that's a 50 amp. And then the best part about the Orion is it's just able to be programmable. So you can set it from anywhere from 10 to 50 amps. Depending on your alternator load. So we were originally waiting for the actual alternator to arrive. So while it still had the factory one in, we were able to dial it down to 20 amps, so we didn't actually overload the alternator. And now that we've just fitted the new upgraded 250 amp alternator, we're able to dial it back up now to 50, so it just meant that we didn't overload that factory alternator. So it's a good option that if you're trying to keep your costs down to begin with and you don't really want to upgrade your alternator just yet, they're a great option to buy one of those, and then that way you can just dial it down, still utilize it, but then it doesn't cap you out, so that when you do eventually want to upgrade, you can then just quickly through the app dial it up to 50 and you get extra charge in. So it's just a pretty good option there. That's pretty much everything at the back here. Let's just jump into where the rear seats were and just see what we've done there. Yeah, so just located in the back here. So we did originally have rear seats in here, but unfortunately we just had to remove them because there just wasn't enough space. We could have fit them over in the cargo area, but we wanted to try to keep that spare so that you could load that up with any bags and that you wanted. So we just had to remove the rear seats, and then we've just on the back of the drawers just fitted the Multi-Plus. So this is a 3000 kVA Multi-Plus. And then the good function to this is it just handles all your AC loads. So the best thing really about these Victron Multi-Pluses is you don't ever have to worry about swapping between an AC charger and then an actual inverter. This will do it all for you. So it's tapped into the 15 amp inlet on the side there. So how it works is it goes from that inlet, goes into an RCD, comes out of that RCD, comes to the actual Multi-Plus, then it comes out of the Multi-Plus, goes to another RCD, and then from there it goes to all your outlets. So what this unit will do is it'll just use the battery power to use any of your 240 volt units, and then once you actually plug in, it'll register, oh, I've got AC coming in, I no longer need to use the battery power to power all my AC loads. I can now use that 15 amp inlet, and then it's also got a 120 amp AC charger in it. So then any excess left over, then we'll go, okay, let's put that back into the battery and get that battery charged up. So that's probably the big benefit to the 3000 over the 2000. 2000 could probably handle pretty much all the loads most people are going to use, unless you plan on using kettle, microwave and that draw quite a lot of power. But the big advantage to the 3000 is you get an extra 40 amps of AC charging. So you get 80 on the 2000, 120 on the 3000. Price difference, not really much price difference. So yeah, it's definitely worth looking at doing the 3000 if you're looking at a Multi-Plus. It just makes a bit more sense. Then just located on top of that, we've just housed the Duetto unit. So this unit is 12 and 240 volt. So it'll work straight off battery power if you wanted to do that and you don't want to turn your inverter on. But if you want to get it up to speed a lot quicker and then heat it up quite quick, then you can just jump it over to the 240 volt, turn your inverter on, and it'll get it up quite a lot quicker. This is just a little dialer on the front here that we were talking about earlier. Really, we always just recommend just setting that to the highest temperature as possible. That way the water in this unit is always as hot as possible. It's a 10 litre unit, so it's going to have 10 litres of hot water in there, but then obviously as soon as you start using it, cold water is then going to start backfilling that, and it'll obviously start bringing that temperature down. So if you just max this one out, just allows the water to be as hot as possible. So by the time it gets to your mixer, you can adjust it there and then you get the exact temperature you want, instead of it being at 40 degrees and all of a sudden cold water comes in. Now it's only at 20, 25. So that's why we always recommend doing that. And then just located on the side here, we just got the mega fuse holder, which just handles all your fusing for all your loads. One goes to the DC hub, two goes to the inverter, because we always run two for 3000. And then you've got one spare there if you ever wanted to add stuff later. And located just below the mega fuse holder is the smart shunt. So this is the Victron 500 amp smart shunt. So Victron have two, they've got the 300 and the 500. We always recommend doing the 500 if you've got a 3000 amp inverter, and then if you've got the 2000, you go for the 300. So because we've got the 3000 Multi-Plus, we just go for the 500 amp smart shunt there. So the good thing about this smart shunt is it's just got two cables that you plug into the bottom of it. One goes to your auxiliary battery, and then one goes to the start battery. So when you bring up the actual app, you can see straight away where your two voltages are. So it's got really a secondary function that people probably don't really think about, as it does able to monitor your start battery as well. So that's pretty handy, and it's all just via the app. That's probably everything here on this side. Let's jump into the cab and see what we've done there. So just inside the cab here, so first off at the top of the dash, we just installed this little switch panel. So originally this had a turbo timer fitted, customer no longer wanted it, so we just removed that, but then it just had a little hole in there where the clock could go. So we just needed a few extra spots for switches, so we decided just to put this little switch panel in there. Fits pretty nicely. So we just chucked the water heater there. So that's the 12 volt switch for the Duetto. So that way if you're driving along, you're like, oh, I need hot water when I park up, but you don't want to turn the inverter on, you just hit that switch there as you're driving along, and at least you get some 12 volt power going to that Duetto just to start heating it up. And now we've just got a few extra switch spots there, so if you ever wanted to add extra stuff in the future, you got a few spares there. Located just below that is just the GME XRS, and there's just got a little pass through in the dash there, so that's just a nice little handy spot. And the big benefit to these ones is because the unit is just able to be tucked away underneath the dash. If for whatever reason you wanted to be able to just remove it completely, just unplug the connector there, completely remove the actual handpiece from the car, and then that way you can just put it back in once you actually use it. So that's why the XRS units are a pretty good one to go for over those big units where you've actually got to have that hardwired somewhere and then easily accessible. So that's why we always try to opt for the XRSs. They are a bit more expensive, but I just think user-wise they're just a bit better for you. Then located on top of the dashes, so we just got the little quad lock USB-C chargers on it. So it's just got the USB-C plugging into it, and then that way you can just put your phone straight onto the actual quad lock mount, and then it'll charge your phone wirelessly. And then they're just wired in to the USB ports that we've just put on each side of the dash there. So it's got a USB-A and a USB-C on each side of the dash, just allowing you to be able to charge your phone and then anything else you want to be able to power off that. And then just located down on the driver's side, we just put a TowPro unit in. So originally had another another trailer brake controller in, and then we'll just remove that and just put the Red Arc TowPro in. So that's in a nice, easy accessible spot. So that way, if you ever do need to hit it to get those emergency brakes to work, it's quite easily accessible. Sometimes some people opt to tuck them away. Yeah, I mean, it probably looks a bit nicer, but if you ever did need to hit that emergency feature, you do want to try to make it accessible so you can easily hit it and not be trying to search for it. So yeah, you definitely want to try to opt to put that in a nice accessible spot, because when you need to hit that emergency brake, in the event that you do, you really need to get onto it quick. So located just on that center console is just the 15-litre Roadie Bushman fridge. So they did already have a 15-litre Roadie on there, and then they've just opted to put that behind the seat just as a bait fridge for their fishing. So the brand new one just goes in here for their drinks fridges. So there's just an Anderson underneath the actual center console, and then that just powers that second fridge in the back there. So we've got 3 fridges, 2 15 litres, and then that 90 litre in the back, so there's heaps of storage for anything that you need when you're going away. Just on top here, we've just got the Car Vision rear view mirror camera. So we always opt for the Car Vision ones. We just find that fit and finish, they just look the most OEM standard wise. We always try to make everything look OEM and like as factory as possible, and we just find the Car Vision ones allow us to do that. The other good function with them is they allow up to 3 camera options. So right now we've got the camera that's just on the Mission 4x4 rack at the back there, and then that's your rear view mirror camera, and then located just on underneath the actual tow bar is just a little silver connector. That's the Safety Dave, and then that's just to connect to his camper trailer, so that whenever he's got a camper trailer on it, he can just toggle to that second channel input, and just allows him to then be able to see what's actually behind the camper trailer. So that's a good option for this. A lot of these cameras, they've only got the option for the 1, where this one has up to 3. So you can have 2 rear, and then you can put 1 on the front, so you can have the 3 cameras in total. So it just allows you to be able to put multiple cameras on it instead of just that 1 rear view mirror camera. So that's why we always opt for those. So that's everything on this 76 series. This one was a pretty good build. They are a bit more challenging because they are a bit more compact. Trying to get fuel tanks, water tanks, and then all the electrical equipment in it is a bit challenging because they are a bit more compact compared to like a Troopy or a 79. So this was a pretty good one to be able to chuck all this gear into. So yeah, it was a good little build for us. But yeah, if you're after any more information or you want to contact us, just head to the link in the description and you'll be able to check us out there.